Today I'm making one of the most controversial casseroles to ever hit YouTube, cracked chicken. Enough said. You eat it, you're addicted. By the time you see this video, I may be banned from YouTube because I'm cooking one of the most controversial casseroles that will ever hit YouTube, cracked chicken. The fact that it has crack in front of the chicken says enough. I don't really have to go on and on about the flavor or how it tastes or how it's gonna hit you. We all know what crack does to people. This is cracked chicken. One of the ingredients that I love that's in this dish is panko breadcrumbs. Panko, 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 panko. If you fry chicken, use panko, Japanese style. But in this case, we're not using Japanese style. We're just using regular panko. Chill old panko, although it's bomb. So for this dish, you're gonna need an entire onion. You wanna make sure you chop up the whole onion. You may cry a little bit through the process, but don't worry about it. Eating this cracked chicken is worth it. And also you're gonna need to chop up 2 stalks of celery, and you're gonna have to boil your chicken. So you wanna boil your chicken for about 15 minutes. Don't add any salt in the water. Don't salt the chicken. Remember, when we're cooking anything, it's about building layers of flavor. And especially with this casserole, this is what makes the crack in the casserole cracked chicken. The one thing you're gonna need is Tony Chachere's. Don't use too much of it, just a tablespoon and a half. I don't really measure out a tablespoon and a half. What I do is I shake it and I kind of eye it. And once my celery and my onions start to look kind of orangey brown, then I know that it's about to be good. And I'm only gonna be able to take about 1 hit, which is 1 plate. If I do any more, I'm gonna eat the entire casserole. One of the main components in cracked chicken that really makes it crack, butter. What I say about butter? Butter makes everything better. You're gonna want this butter right here. If you don't have anything else, that's fine. But this butter, it's nice, it's thick, it's creamy, it has a texture, and it transfers over into the food. And once again, I cannot stress enough, building layers of flavor. That's what you want. You wanna build layers of flavor. Just kind of think of a billboard. Anytime you cook, anytime you look at the pan or whatever, build layers of flavor. You wanna dice your onions and your celery, but make sure you dice your onions to where everything is pretty much the same size because you want it to cook through evenly. And that way you have an even cook and you don't have a mouthful of cooked onions and a little bit of raw onions in the middle of that because it's just not, it's not a good taste. You're not gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be fairly nasty. Same thing with the chicken. When you finish boiling the chicken, you wanna make sure you cut it kind of bite size, even enough as you can, as to where it cooks evenly. You wanna boil your chicken for about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. Don't boil it anything past 12 minutes. If you want to have a casserole with juicy chicken in it, because a lot of people are used to eating casseroles and the meat tends to be really dry. You wanna have that chicken juicy because this cracked chicken is all about the flavor and the juice and I'm going off on a tangent because I'm thinking about digging my spoon into that cracked chicken and just seeing the butter kind of ooze out along with the mayonnaise and the melted cheese and the panko breadcrumbs and you have that tactile crunch when you're eating. What we're gonna do is start with olive oil. Probably use about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Put it around in just a little bit, maybe about a glug. I think a glug equals up to a tablespoon. Don't quote me, don't hold me to it. You wanna start off with a pan that is smoking. My pan is smoking. Once again, if your pan isn't smoking before you put something in there, don't put it in there at all. I'm gonna drop the onions in there. You hear that sound? That's the sound you wanna hear when you drop anything in the pan. In goes the celery. I cannot stress enough that it's very important to sweat these onions. Please sweat them. If you don't, you'll most likely have a heartburn. You might have a few other things, other reactions that you don't like. So sweat the onions, get them sweated, get them brown. And once they start to kind of sweat out and turn color a little bit, that's when you want to drop the butter. Don't drop the butter in while they're sweating because onions release a lot of water. So if you drop the butter in while the onions are releasing a lot of water, then you're gonna be in a situation where you're basically boiling your onions in water and butter And you don't want the water butter flavor. You wanna have pure butter mixed in with that Tony Chachere's. Turn the heat off. My celery and my onions are nice and brown and they're soaking in the butter. And here I have chicken that's already been cut up into cubes. This is where the magic happens. So let me tell you, the first thing you wanna do, you wanna put down a cup of shredded cheese. Regular cheddar, that'll do. So if you wanna measure it out, you can put it in a cup. Me personally, I just grab a handful. Handful and a half. That's about a cup and a half of cheese. I like mine to have a little bit of extra cheese. Now we're gonna take the celery. Be sure to use a spatula because you wanna get all the butter out of the pan. You want that to be in your, oh, this thing is heavy. You wanna get all the butter out of your pan. Make sure you add about a cup or a little bit over a cup of mayonnaise. You need that creamy texture to go with it. And once again, make sure you use a spatula so you can get all of this stuff out. Every last bit of it. This is what's gonna make your cracked chicken an ideal dish. You wanna use chicken broth. Chicken broth is actually very good. Don't use the water from the chicken that you boiled. Like that has no swag, no flavor. It's just plain. Use some chicken broth. Don't use unsalted chicken broth. Use regular chicken broth. You want an entire cup that you're gonna dump in here. Maybe just a tad bit more. A cup and a quarter. So with cracked chicken, it's kind of like crack on the street. Everybody makes their crack a little bit different. Some people have pure crack. Some people have cut crack. Some people have re-rock. Let me stop talking about that kind of stuff. That's stuff we shouldn't be talking about on YouTube. Don't ask any questions. Don't ask how I know. I just hear people talking. I listen. Never been a crack dealer, so nobody put in the comments, hey, he knows too much about crack. He probably sold crack back in the day. Never sold crack. The only crack that I will sell is this cracked chicken. You're gonna need a baking dish. What size? I don't know. But before you put this in the oven, you're gonna want this concoction to sit for an entire hour because this is what's gonna allow the chicken to soak in all the flavor from the mayonnaise, the Tony Chachere's, the onions, all of that stuff. That's what's gonna make it superb and make your chicken taste amazing when you bite into it. Now remember, to avoid the dry chicken breast, only 10 minutes of boiling, 10 to 12. Make sure you smooth everything out and you wanna preheat your oven to 350 and put it on bake. Now in order to get the panko toasted, broil it. Broil it at 425, 450, not at 550 because that's too hot. 400, 425, 450. That will give it an even colored, like toast on the panko breadcrumbs. And do not run off to go talk to your friends. Don't go searching things on the internet. Stand there and watch it. It doesn't take long for panko to burn. Do not add the panko breadcrumbs just yet. We're gonna put it in the oven at 350. We're gonna let it sit for like 45 minutes. And when the sides all around here, all the sides of the baking dish starts to bubble up, that's when you know it's done cooking. And you wanna put your panko breadcrumbs on there. So you sprinkle them on there. Don't cake it down. Just take a handful, sprinkle, cover the top with a thin coating, and then you put it back in the oven. Turn the oven off, put it on broil. Broil it at between 400, 425, and 450. Whatever setting you like, whichever one your oven works best at. And that will give it an even toast all the way across the baking dish. Once I see the bubbles kind of going around the edge of the dish, we're gonna come back. We're gonna sprinkle the panko, stick it back in for 10 minutes. Bang, cracked chicken. We'll have it. You'll be addicted. And don't blame me. It's been about 45 minutes and we're back. Honestly, I wasn't keeping time. I was really just waiting to see when it was gonna bubble around the edges. That's how I know it's time to pull it out. I don't ever time this. And don't time it, just look for the bubbles. That'll tell you everything you need to know. This is how it's supposed to look. Yellowish, greenish, bubbling around the sides. You can see the butter just kind of browning, sitting on top. That's how you know it's good to go. So we're gonna take some panko and we're gonna drizzle it. Make sure you drizzle it lightly. After you're done with the panko, what I say? Don't put it in on bake, broil it. Just go ahead and set your broiler to 425, 450, not 550. Panko. I love panko. You make fried chicken, make it with panko. You make chicken tenders, make it with panko. Don't use anything else. Don't use flour, don't use whatever else is used. Panko breadcrumbs. The cracked chicken should be ready. Should be nice and brown, tasty, bubbly. We're about to find out. Oh yeah. That's definitely ready. I think you can hear it bubbling, possibly. See those bubbles? See how brown it is? That's how it should look. We're gonna let it cool down, but of course I'm going to put this on the plate. Because if you leave it in here, it'll never cool down. It's piping hot right now. Look at that. Cracked chicken. Eat at your own risk. This dish is highly addictive. And there's one thing I'll say, this chicken breast is not dry whatsoever. And the panko and the mayonnaise and the cheese and the celery and onions and that butter. Oh man, it's, take my word for it. Or make it. Enjoy cooking because I'm always gonna enjoy eating.